Millions of Americans swear by chiropractors, and many physicians swear at them, claiming that chiropractors are unscientific and potentially very dangerous. My guests tonight represent both sides, and they're here to discuss what chiropractors can and cannot do for you. Please meet them now. First, Dr. Stephen Barrett is a psychiatrist, a consumer advocate, and a medical writer. Dr. Louis Sportelli has been a chiropractor for 19 years in rural Pennsylvania. Are chiropractors doctors? Do you have a medical degree?
No, and I don't want a medical degree. If I did, I'd go to med school. But I have a doctor of chiropractic degree. We manipulate the spine very specifically and very delicately.
What do you manipulate it for? What kind of conditions do you treat?
We don't treat conditions. I've just said that.
You don't treat anything?
The body. The fact of the matter remains is there are functional angina cases that go to their cardiologists, have had their cardiovascular system checked, have proven to be normal. They still retain their functional angina, which are fearful constricting chest pains. They go to a chiropractor, they have their dorsal spine manipulated, and by God, you know what happens?
Nothing.
What happens is they lose their functional angina.
That's what you say, isn't it?
That's what's said by thousands of people, incidentally. This is one of the problems, David.
I will answer any letter that comes and send information about chiropractors. If you're going to go to see one, you better know what you're getting into.
Western medicine kind of started as tradition at the turn of the century in the response to quote-unquote quackery.
There has been a deliberate campaign to label anybody who doesn't sell or distribute drugs, surgery, or radiation as a quack.
Your dad's a quack, right?
Your dad's a quack.
My daddy says your daddy's a quack.
My dad said I'd sooner die in a normal fashion than see a quack.
He didn't know what a quack was. He just knew that his dad labeled my dad a quack.
You're quacks, and you're not.
I kind of thought chiropractors were quacks. I don't know why I thought that, I just did. And I think I was like the general public.
Chiropractors are bad, they're dangerous, quacks, pseudoscience. If you keep saying that often enough, people start believing you.
Medical insurance used to not pay for any chiropractic. I mean, in the day, it was like, forget it, it's quackery.
Quackery.
Quacks. Quacks and charlatans, etc.
Quacks!
Almost any time in history, go to Copernicus, go to Galileo, they were considered quacks at their time when they innovated futuristic ideas that were aligned with higher truths.
We were nuts. We were crazy. We were quacks.
My choices were exploratory surgery or a quack. I woke up the next morning and chose the quack.
If helping somebody with a natural approach to healthcare versus a addictive, potentially fatal approach is quackery, then call me a quack every day of the week.
This is the town of Houma, Louisiana, one of the most southernmost parts to the west of New Orleans by about 50 miles. This is where my dad stopped the car when he drove down from Davenport, Iowa after chiropractic school, and this is where he began his practice. It was one of 4 states that had yet licensed the profession. He didn't realize that it was also going to be the last state to license the profession. And the reason being is that the AMA, Political Medicine, at that time had a committee who were charged with containing and eliminating the chiropractic profession. The chairman of that committee happened to be from New Orleans. He wielded great influence in the legislature and in politics in our state. And that's why Louisiana was the last state and why chiropractors in Louisiana were especially demonized.
At the Chicago headquarters of the American Medical Association is the spokesman for the majority of its 110,000 doctor members, able publicist Dr. Morris Fishbein, who opposes any radical departure from long-established medical practice.
We insist that the practice of medicine is a doctor's problem. The doctor is the only one entitled by training, by experience, and by law to take care of the sick. Medicine is still a profession. It must never become a business or a trade, never the subservient tool of a governmental bureaucracy.
You can trace medical racism back to one man. His name was Morris Fishbein. He owned the AMA from 1924 to 1949. He was its executive director, the editor of its journals, He was dubbed the medical Mussolini by his contemporaries because he was such an effective tyrant.
That was an environment that my dad and many other people were practicing in. And it took a lot of courage, it took a lot of conviction, and a lot of belief in what they were doing to stay the course. Not only was it tough making a living back at that time, but it was tough socially and culturally. My older brother was killed in Vietnam. He was the first Louisiana soldier killed in Vietnam, and he's on the wall in the Vietnam Memorial as number 100. Soon after my brother was killed, my mom just went into a depression. She took it very hard, and she wouldn't leave the house. Dad finally got her out one night. He says, "Pat, come with me, we're going to bowl." He bowled once a week with a group of people in a bowling team. And Mom said, "Okay, I need to start getting out." And within 30 minutes, I recall them coming back home. And Mom had been visibly upset. She was still crying, and she went into her room. And I looked at my dad and I said, "Dad, is it Raymond, my brother?" And Dad said, "No." He says, "There was a medical doctor who happened to be on the other team that we were bowling against. And he made a big stink that he wasn't going to bowl if a chiropractor was going to be on the other team." Your mother, in her state, she kind of went off on him. She says, "I just lost my son in defense of this country. I gave my oldest son up, and you're going to treat my husband and my family this way?" She was really upset about it, and Mom talked about that until almost her dying days. She used to always remember that one incident and how cruel and insensitive medicine could be to her and her husband. Part of this contain and eliminate strategy was they labeled chiropractors unscientific cultists. And that was in an era where the cultists were pretty nasty people. Chiropractors were put right into that boat. Cults back then were Charles Manson and the evil that he prevailed on those people in California. And then you had a guy like Jim Jones. Made all those people drink Kool-Aid. And they all died. It was a mass suicide. And they labeled chiropractors the same as they labeled those types of people. He had no idea at all that this new profession that he loved and he knew he was helping a lot of people with was going to be labeled a cult. Normal people in society would almost revolt when they saw a chiropractor coming because they thought these people were crazy. They were loons. They were cultists. That's what political medicine did to him and to all of his colleagues.
We have a small local community hospital. I'd send patients up there for urinalysis and blood work. They refused to do my blood work on my patients. They refused to do a urinalysis for me. Later I find out that the joke up there was, well, what does a chiropractor want to do a urinalysis for? They probably don't even know what it tastes like. The more you begin to wonder, is there something bigger going on that I can't get my arms around? Every workers' compensation insurance carrier in the United States of America pays for chiropractic. Medicare pays for it.
Did they decide to do that voluntarily, or did you ram laws through the state legislatures to get them to do it?
When we get to the political power and American Medical Association, we'll talk about that.
You didn't answer the question. Did they do it voluntarily?
Well, of course not. They don't do anything voluntarily. The AMA in 1963 formed a committee on quackery whose goal and objective was to contain and eliminate the profession of chiropractic. And they did it in the most clandestine way possible.
A Dr. Sabatier from Louisiana was a member of what was originally called the Committee on Chiropractic, but the powers that be said that sounds too noble. Change it to Committee on Quackery. So your young medical students, the day they opened their locker, ended up with a quack pack, telling the young, impressionable doctors-to-be, male and female, they were killing their patients if they allowed them to go near a doctor of chiropractic. He said, you are going to get reports from many, many of your patients that they are going to chiropractors and getting help. Say something like this: chiropractors are like little puppies, cute, but rabid. They are killers.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Mr. Taylor, did you ever hear Dr. Sabatier use the term rabid dog or killer with respect to chiropractors?
Not to my knowledge.
And then comes the day that I recall like it was yesterday. Got a brown unmarked package in the mail. And I took out this ream, literally 500 or some pages. I read the first couple pages and I said to myself, this can't be true.
It purported to be copies of original documents from the American Medical Association and other medical trade associations. They engaged in a nationwide, lengthy, widespread, illegal conspiracy to destroy chiropractic.
This became dubbed Sore Throat, and Sore Throat decided that his very life might be in jeopardy, but he agreed to talk to a group of chiropractors at a seminar.
The guy would get on with a voice synthesizer. He was smart enough not to leave his fingerprints or his voice prints.
He was almost challenging the chiropractor community to do something about this. You have now the data that I've gotten for you. So here was an audience, prepped and listening to the speaker, and all of a sudden, Sore Throat comes on. And he says, I'm a medical doctor, and I've worked for the AMA for a number of years.
Approximately 2 years ago, I finally woke up and found myself working in the middle of a morally corrupt, politically and economically
motivated organization. Wow. Think about those words to the ears of doctors of chiropractic who've been oppressed for all these years.
At first, they maintained that the documents that the Sore Throat had distributed were fake. But then it turned out that we found them out in the state, county, and local society files. And I asked them, where'd you get them? They said, well, the AMA sent them to us. And then we asked the AMA, why don't you have all of the documents that we're finding out in the boonies? Their answer to me was, well, we gathered all those documents together and the janitor mistook it as garbage and disposed of it. I'm a lawyer, I'm not an idiot.
They were killing off enough people, so it didn't make any difference.
Do you know how many they killed off?
No, I don't know.
In fact, didn't you search for the number of malpractice or deaths attributable to chiropractic on numerous occasions?
No, I don't ever remember searching for chiropractic deaths.
Isn't that something you'd want to know if you were making a statement that they were killing off so many people?
I usually did know.
You did know? What was the figure you were able to come up with?
I have no figure that I could give you.
His deposition, I think, was so paramount in why ultimately the case was won. He was, to be quite honest, very arrogant. There was one part of the deposition where he was asked, did you know anything about the education of a chiropractor? And his answer was, you know, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know the difference between a chiropractor and an antelope.
I didn't know anything about chiropractic when I went to the AMA. I didn't know anything about chiropractor from an antelope.
When one of the largest political organizations in the world targets you to contain you and eliminate you, and then uses all their powerful forces to bring you down, you better be darn strong to survive that. That's what this profession did. They survived that. And they instilled in those future generations that, yeah, someone's going to be a little skeptical, but there's a reason for that. Understand that reason and go beyond that.
The essence of the findings was this was a profession that in its treatment and diagnostic methods was sophisticated in an area that had been overlooked otherwise in medical science. It was severely against the public interest that the professions were fighting with each other, with faults on both sides. The public and patients would profit so much from these professions actually working together rather than being involved in a marketplace battle.
Does the AMA have power today? Of course it does. Does it have the kind of power that it had decades ago? The answer is no. The AMA's membership is down appreciably. Many physicians don't want to belong to the AMA. But the key is the AMA doesn't need the medical physicians for economic viability. Now, they've got hundreds of millions of dollars as a result of all the publications that they have. And then you take all the publications and multiply that by every pharmaceutical ad, and now you can start to see the inextricable tie between the pharmaceutical companies and the AMA. So from a money position, they're as strong as ever.
There's a macro view. You could take a deep dive into the little pictures. You've got the medical industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the insurance industry, the legal industry, the food industry. You got government regulation. All these things interact and have impact on individual people's lives. And when you take a step back and look at the macro view, you recognize the whole thing's been doctored. But in order to understand all these individual pieces, you really have to take a step back and see the big picture.
What plagues me every day was literally the millions of people who never went to a doctor of chiropractic because they had been brainwashed into believing that chiropractic was not credible. There are some things that are forgivable and some things that are not. I can't tell you how many times patients would come to me in desperation after they had been everywhere and would say, if I only would have known about chiropractic sooner.
I've been trained in martial arts for all my adult life and prior. I'm pretty good. To get good, you kind of have to leave your ego out the door. You got to lose and be willing to lose and learn from it. I had some numbness all the way around my waist when I would start to run. That's how it started. I figured I'd just tweak something in my back. They sent me to a neurologist. I get a spinal tap, nerve test, CAT scan, MRIs, and he says, you have MS. So I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I really didn't know how to react because I didn't know how to accept it. This is what you're going to have the rest of your life. Even though I'd been sick for a year, never occurred to me that I wasn't next week going to be better. And so when somebody tells you ain't going to happen, I don't know what to do with that. It didn't sit well for a number of reasons. One, I couldn't really accept it. And then he told me, you cannot exercise the way you work out. You have to be very careful about overheating your core. He even told me, hot tub is too much. If you overheat your core, it'll kick an episode. Going to the gym, working out, I mean, that wasn't just something I do, it's kind of part of who you are. There were 3 medicines at the time. And I remember the funny thing was, he just brought out the 3 boxes and set them down and said, pick one. And I was like, wait a minute, I didn't go to med school, you did. You're supposed to tell me what to do. He said, look, I can give you one, and we could be back in here in 6 months or a year, and it's not really working, so I would take you off of that and put you on this one. I said, look, I want to try everything I can out there, natural, homeopathic, voodoo, before I get on these drugs. Because the list of what it could do for me was this big, and the list of possible side effects is like this, and one of them suicidal tendencies. That sounded nuts to me. I kept going to the gym for my own well-being, my own psyche. In my mind, if I stopped moving, I may not be able to start again. At my core, I've always felt the body was made to heal itself if it's given what it's supposed to have. I firmly believe that. I'm not going to let this thing define me.
James, tell me why you want to live. What's important for you? How come you're here? In this shape, on this quest, with this attitude.
So I was always looking for different things, and I'm very fortunate. I have past benefits. I worked for Delta Airlines for years. So when I find something interesting, exciting, I can pick up the phone or jump on a plane and go. And so I'd like you to talk to me a little bit about what are we doing wrong? What are we doing right? What should we be doing?
Well, I'm not interested in your MS. I'm interested in you being well and you being healthy. So let's just stop talking about the MS for a second, or whatever the diagnosis that they come in with. And I say, no matter what, between now and the end of your life, and I don't know when that's going to be. What is your greatest chance to have a wonderful experience between now and then? The things that kill 80% of us are chronic illness, lifestyle illness. Literally, 8 out of 10 people will die of lifestyle illness, of chronic illness. It's suicide by lifestyle. How we answer the question, why are people chronically ill, determines everything downstream from that. So if you believe people are chronically ill because they have an innate defect genetically, then you don't believe you can prevent. And your solution to get them well isn't about getting them well at all. It's how to palliate them along the predetermined path of worsening chronic illness and early death. And that's the system, isn't it?
So who sold us the bill of goods? And why?
Because there's money in sickness, James. It's the leading industry in the world.
The biggest contradiction in our culture today is calling medicine healthcare. Medicine is not healthcare, it's sick care. And when you take sick care and provide it to a culture like healthcare, then you end up with a sick culture. And that's why we spend $2.7 trillion per year on what we call healthcare, and we're incredibly sick as a culture.
I don't think any of us would have a problem spending that much money if we got results, but we're not getting the results for that investment. We're not going to be able to afford these choices. It's a simple, basic reality. It's a fatally flawed system that eventually, most experts believe, will crash. And then we're going to have to rely on solutions that truly address the foundational causes of the healthcare problems that people are facing. Every year, 125,000 people die from properly prescribed prescription drugs.
There is significant pressure from pharmaceutical companies to continue doling out as many medications as possible. These things aren't changed overnight. It's like turning the Titanic. But there's no question, and it makes perfect sense, and there's not a single member of the Western medical community or any CEO of any pharmaceutical company that wouldn't agree. People are better off if they aren't taking so many medications.
When I grew up, you got a drug. You were sick, you took a drug for 7 days, you went off of it, you never took it again. They started selling continuity drugs, and they say, not only this, but we expect you to take this for the rest of your life. We don't want you to get well, because if you get well, you stop our cash flow. There's plenty of cash flow, there's more than enough, but what happens is big pharma's in a scarcity model, and as long as you look out of eyes of limitation, you're going to see limitation.
The United States represents 5% of the Earth's population, yet we manage to consume over 50% of all prescriptions written worldwide. So we're clearly a target-rich environment for the pharmaceutical industry. I think as a society of physicians, we've got comfortable with the fact that the quickest and easiest way to mitigate that pain is through the form of a pill, as opposed to other alternative means of pain reduction, and that requires effort. That requires me taking time with you.
Because of the current system that we have, where every 5 minutes you're supposed to see another patient and hand out another pill, I think intuitively most physicians realize this isn't medicine. This is just cookbook. They become frustrated and disillusioned and disgusted with what they're doing.
I'm a primary care physician, but what I really do is try to get to the root of why people have needed to come in to see me. And I wasn't able to do that the way I had dreamed of being able to do when I was a kid. Telling people that what they've heard from other doctors is wrong, that's a very risky position for me to be taking.
When a patient interfaces with the healthcare system, it's common today that they're not told all of their options. From validated research studies, we know that 20 to 30% of medications and procedures may not be necessary. We're taught when to operate, but we're not really told when not to operate. The latter is the more difficult thing to master.
It frustrates me to no end that I am part of a system that is broken and doesn't work. There's the science behind medicine, which we can all learn. Then there's the art of medicine, which many never learn. And I'm afraid that that's an art that's dissipating quickly. If we don't do something about it, it's going to be lost art.
I've seen, I would say, a dozen doctors, so-called specialists in each of their fields: heart, spine, brain, everything. There is something inherently wrong deep down inside me. I know that. I've been tested for everything under the sun. I could drop dead tomorrow and I wouldn't know what it was of. And I don't think Western medicine does either. They've been most unhelpful. Nobody has had the good sense to say, Mr. Morris, we don't know what's wrong with you. Instead, they make up all this crap. You have this, now go see that guy. He'll take care of it. And all that time, everybody's passing the buck. I felt increasingly I was just being treated like a number. I really feel my life is in the balance. I think that I need help that Western medicine isn't giving me, and therefore I'm sort of throwing myself at the feet of alternative medicine. I'm willing to try things that I thought were nothing but shamanism.
Big Pharma has taken the power out of the medical doctor's hands. They have commercials on television that say, if you have these symptoms, go see your doctor and get this drug. I mean, when you go to see your doctor, you tell him your symptoms. The doctor's supposed to know what the best drug is for you. You're not supposed to go in and say, I need this drug, I have these symptoms. And it's kind of an affront to what the medical doctor is all about. And then when you look at the side effects of some of these medications, they're worse than having the actual disease that they're trying to cure. They're big business, they're big money. They have taken over what I would consider really true health care, which is prevention first and then getting back to normal that honors the homeostasis or the natural balance that the body is always trying to maintain. James, tell me how old you are.
I'm 52.
52, and you've had MS. You were diagnosed with MS when you were 38 years old?
Yeah, so 14 years.
Okay. Tell me the main symptoms, what you experience from a day-to-day basis.
I call it wobbly. My legs just kind of give out.
Yeah.
When it gets bad, I need a cane to walk. And then fatigue, really bad fatigue.
I'm going to begin the exam today on your neck. I'm going to be looking for the same thing that I look for in my other patients who have MS, frozen shoulder. I analyze their spine in a way, even though they're different disorders, and I find a very similar outcome in the examination.
On October of 2009, my car flipped about 5 times, and they found me in the back seat. My neck was broken, face was fractured. One of the issues that I'm having, other than getting out of bed and changing my clothes, is that if I want to move around the house and put on a light, like in this case, if I were to put on this light switch, I have to go like this, and it's paining, but I'll be able to move it once I get there, and then I'll have to assist my hand to bring it back down.
Is that all you can do? Frozen shoulder is a puzzling condition. The patient is unable to bring their arm up alongside their head. They only have about 90 to 120 degrees of what we call abduction. All right, so slowly, let's go ahead and abduct the arms, bring them up over your head. Right there becomes difficult.
Yes.
So bringing it up alongside your ear is very difficult.
It's not going to go.
They do physical therapy that makes them worse, that makes them hurt more and sleep less. Also, a lot of patients get the injection, which is ineffective most of the time. It keeps getting done, but it's not fixing the problem. And I thought to myself, well, it may be a weakening or a malfunction of the spinal accessory nerve. And now I have this paradigm that I built in my head that the skull and the spine support a part of the nervous system that runs the shoulder. And go ahead and bring the arms up, see if they'll come all the way up.
You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. This thing that had been around for so long that people knew nothing about was being resolved with this chiropractic adjustment. When a patient came into my office, she said to me, I've decided to have surgery. And I said to her, well, I don't think that that's going to fix your problem, but I totally understand that you want out of this pain. Before you jump to this, I want to examine you in a new way. I analyze people in the same way that I analyze a frozen shoulder for this lifting and rotation of the skull on the first cervical vertebra.
I don't see any reason why patients like James can't get better. At the very least, improve their quality of life while they have this disease. They don't have to become a cripple or invalid simply because they've been given this label that they have this disease. You should never become your disease, because in the moment you do, you're dead. Okay, bring your knee up, please. Let me have your arm up and locked right here. I'm going to pull, resist, pull it. Okay, pull tight. You're a human being, vital, healthy human being, and I have this disease. And you work like mad to improve your lifestyle, your diet, your attitude, your spirituality, all those things that go into making up a completely balanced human being. We've gotten so far away from that medically. We are so out of touch. Instead of listening to our body's communication, we give it drugs to say, shut up, I don't want to hear it. We suppress it. Right there, you feel it? See how it weakens?
Yes.
This work maximizes function, maximizes performance. It predicts injuries before they happen. So many athletes, when they retire, their bodies are just all broken down, they're cripples. That doesn't have to be the case.
90-88. Front court left, Stockton falls down, and Stockton is hurt. He's hurt. His ankle. Trust me, he is hurt.
What's been shocking to me is just how fast the body's capable of healing. I mean, this body is an amazing system, and we're just barely scratching the surface of what's possible.
Not everybody has that treatment. Not everybody can be kept balanced like you kept me balanced. So things didn't have a chance to grate and wear down and erode. If something bad happened like the sprained ankle, I didn't have to adapt around it. We got it back online, and I could play not only pain-free, but free from the worry that I was going to hurt myself worse.
I know you fought some battles for me.
Yeah, because I was committed to the treatment. And I thought everybody should be committed to the treatment. I mean, this works. If something works, why aren't we pushing it? Why aren't we pushing it?
And my position has always been that I trust the proprioceptive system, the nervous system. Once we reset the joint, reactivate the muscles, walking and running becomes therapeutic. And we saw that numerous times through your career.
That might be the greatest service that really you did for all of us, because you know where your body's going. You have control of your body. And I think you'll survive even the most rigorous seasons.
Okay, Peekaboo has got to take advantage of her smooth course now. Her powerful German rivals, led by Katja Zeisinger, purposely chose later start numbers, assuming the track would speed up. And they're also counting on course.
As an athlete, you rely on your body for everything. It becomes your means, it's your vehicle. I can remember when I first met Dr. Bueller, I found out that so much stuff was shut down and I had so many imbalances.
I'm going to pull and you resist. Pull tight. Pull it. Nice.
I had some really profound adjustments and some really amazing experiences with him, and I knew I could then go out and actually legitimately ask of my body to give me an Olympic performance.
Gate you went by, Peekaboo straight into the lead.
The neatest thing is when you see a patient who has given up and they realize they can be better and actually start to cry. That's powerful. And it doesn't get any better than that.
I'd been suffering from major knee pain. I broke my right leg, had a rod inserted. Nothing was working. Basically, I was skiing on one leg all year long. I came in just with the attitude of anything could help because I love it. I love skiing. I was in so much pain, and then I got worked on by you. I got off the table and instantly pain-free. It was pretty amazing.
It frustrates me to no end when I'm ostracized by the medical profession, where they look down their noses at me, where they tell people that I'm a quack or that the only reason I get results is because it's placebo, which means the patient believes they're going to get better, they get better.
I limped into your office to get adjusted before a road trip, and you asked me about the ankle. I said, well, what's going on? I said, don't worry about it. It's tendonitis. It's under control. We're handling it. And you said, well, you mind if I touch? I said, you can try to touch it, but you can't. You're not able to find anything. You can't palpate it because nobody else could.
And you asked me if you had to believe in it for it to work. Remember that?
Yeah.
I said no.
Yeah. If this was faith healing, we were in deep trouble because I wasn't a believer.
That's true.
For sure.
Stockton, open three. John Stockton sends the Utah Jazz to the NBA Finals.
I've been called a quack. I've been called a charlatan. I've been told I diagnose things that don't exist, that I treat conditions that I shouldn't be treating, that I'm a liability to patients. As a chiropractic physician, I've spent my entire career fighting for the right to practice. We are up against the most powerful lobbies there are, the medical profession, the pharmaceuticals. Consistently, we're fighting to prevent legislation to carve us out of insurance, reimbursement. It gets exhausting, but right now we are fighting for our very survival as a profession.
As a medical student, I don't think I really ever heard chiropractic medicine come up ever in my formal medical training. And I really didn't know what to think of it. In general, they just sounded to be high risk and unestablished.
Many people have said, you know, I don't go to a chiropractor because I'm afraid. I've heard that maybe chiropractors cause stroke. The research does not say that whatsoever. What they determined after looking at these thousands of cases is that an individual is no more likely to suffer a stroke after a chiropractic visit than they are after a medical visit.
What we do now know is that people who have the pathology, which is called a dissection, in the arteries in the neck, you develop neck pain because the artery is separating. That inevitably leads to a stroke, and it doesn't matter whose office you go into. Because like somebody who has a heart attack, you can be feeling great, you develop some arm pain. The process is the same, and it's just as devastating, except when you get a heart attack, you haven't got anybody to blame.
Medicare is the largest health care system, and in general, people are very satisfied with it. Our seniors go to their doctors, and they're covered for most conditions. And with chiropractic being a more natural approach to care, many seniors would like to start there first. The problem is that with Medicare, they only cover 3 codes for doctors of chiropractic out of 10,000. That means the patient is limited by what they can get reimbursed for. The insurance industry is often run by medical physicians. So the payment scheme that they've developed tends to go towards that direction. It doesn't really make anyone a lot of money if a patient can go to a doctor of chiropractic, get some naturally based treatment such as an adjustment, some nutritional advice, and talk about exercise. There's not a lot of money in that, but it's awfully good for the patient.
We look at someone from head to toe, not only what their pathology is, if areas have been injured, but what their functional integrity is. It comes back to observations that were made over 100 years ago, where neurological function was increased without using drugs or surgery specifically by an adjustment. Since that time, it has been known that the consequence of chiropractic applications have been based on the nervous system. We really didn't understand the brain over the last 100 years as much as we understand it today.
When you start looking at the brain, your treatment protocols radically change. We were taught to use certain anti-anxiety medications like Valium and Xanax. But as soon as I started scanning people, I stopped using them because I saw that Valium and Xanax and medications like that pretty much work like alcohol in the brain. And over time, they cause suppression of brain activity. And I go, ooh, I'm making people worse. See, if you don't look at the brain, you have no accountability for making your patients worse. Psychiatry is broken. Psychiatrists make more money if they see 4 people in an hour. So it's become 4, 6 people in an hour. Here's the medicine. What are your side effects? Does it work? Let's try this. Okay, I'll see you back for $175 for 15 minutes in a month.
Our time is up.
Okay. It's crazy. It is just a total crazy mess. In order to really make proper diagnosis, you need to understand their biology and their psychology, how they get along with other people, what's the social situation in, what are their spiritual beliefs, not necessarily religious, but why do they care? What does their life mean? And when you treat them, again, in a biological, psychological, social, spiritual way. 85% of psychiatric medications are prescribed by non-psychiatric physicians, your family doctor, or your OBGYN, or your internist, and I actually think they don't do a very good job. The problem with medicine is we make symptoms, depression, diagnoses. When you do that with depression, you dishonor it because depression's a symptom. It's got many different causes, and you end up giving a one treatment fits everybody approach, and it's really no better than placebo. But that's what we do in psychiatry, and it hurts people.
We want to just have you stand up. We're going to get your blood pressure and your pulse rate standing up. We'll see what happens. Medical doctors, they're not putting their hands on patients. I think that that's really lacking in medicine. They go through so many rotations. They kind of become desensitized. We attract patients that have been basically, I don't know if chewed up by the medical system is the right way to describe that, or the fact that they've exhausted everything in the medical system. I had a patient fly out from New York, basically on the verge of suicide.
The last 2.5 years I've been full of pain. If it's not my head, it's my knee. If it's not my back, it's something else. It travels, it moves. It messes with my heart, it messes with my head, and most of all, it's gotten to the point where it's beating my soul up.
I'll say it till I die, and hopefully that's not tomorrow. I feel worse now than I did 2.5 years ago when I started seeing, I'm told, some of the best people in the business. I can't get a straight answer at anybody. One medication does one thing while another does something else. Combined, they do nothing. And ultimately, my quality of life, doctor, is to the point where I cannot live this way. I want to do something about it. I want my life back.
I say you're on a couple different medicines, Lyrica, Ambien, OxyContin, etc. Besides giving you prescription therapy, is there any other plan moving forward?
The one plan moving forward that my consortium of doctors is suggesting, in fact, trying to ram down my throat at this point, is spinal fusion. They're convinced that my problems start and end there.
The medical profession looks from a pathoanatomical point of view when they look at an X-ray and MRI. In other words, they want to see something wrong with the anatomy. That's why they can find a degenerated or abnormal herniated disc and say, there, right there, I can prove it to you. See on this X-ray MRI? And they'll do their fusion. But what do? They fuse you in a misaligned position. Your physiology, your functioning has not improved whatsoever. Failed back surgery is so prevalent now that the insurance has its own code, failed back surgery syndrome. What they're doing is just drugging them, shooting them, cutting them, and then we see the after effects. I had a man come into my office the other day who had 8 back surgeries. He didn't need one of them. 50 to 90% of back surgeries fail according to medical men themselves.
I had a dream where I woke up in cold sweats and I was in hell. All the people there with me in hell were all the patients that received surgical procedures from me that didn't really need it, and their lives were destroyed because of it. Every time I go into the operating room, it's uncomfortable in many ways because you're turning the patient's lives upside down, and you're worried, is this going to really provide the relief for this patient that we've hoped for?
There is an epidemic of back pain. It's a billion-dollar issue. We wind up with people not being able to function. They get depressed. They get hooked on pain medications, of which are freely available. If there had been proper, organized, coordinated intervention, an integrated kind of an approach to that person may have saved that individual from what I consider to be a life of despair.
I agree with you. I think a large percentage of those patients would have been helped by earlier intervention, a more holistic approach as far as diet, exercise.
We have patients that have absolutely no benefit from the surgery we provide. Some patients have complications and their outcomes are worse.
James, in every possible way, has helped me because he's done everything the polar opposite of me. Every time I turn around, another doctor is throwing yet another painkiller at me, and I'm only too glad to oblige.
The patients want the shortest route to the quickest fix, which is a pill. A lot of physicians want the shortest route to the quickest fix, which is to get them a prescription, get them out, and get the next patient in. And that's where the trouble begins.
He's hopefully going to support me through the next phase, which is my detox, and frankly, I'm very nervous about it, but on the other hand, I know that in order to get to where you guys want me to be, I need to go through that phase.
Is this the first time you've ever done a detox?
Oh, yeah.
Purdue Pharma, the company who puts this drug, OxyContin, into the marketplace, pleads guilty that they misrepresented the addictive aspects of this drug. They said that it was less addictive than other drugs already on the market, where it turns out it's more. They pay a $600 million fine, but when you look at the amount of money they've made on this, it's astronomical. And here's a drug that now took people who had back pain, a manageable problem. They get put on this drug to try to control that problem, and next thing you know, they substitute their back pain for a drug addiction.
And James, what was different for your experience about how you went about treating it or addressing your own health than what Brian had gone through?
When I was diagnosed, it took about a year to come up with a diagnosis. My neurologist gave me the different drug options, and I didn't want to get on them.
I almost feel guilty of having not been that person that he was, who obviously had some sort of fortitude and brass that made him say, no, I'm not going there. Whereas me, I'm like, what do you got? Okay, bring it on. I'll take it. I feel on a certain level ostracized because I'm, let's face it, a junkie, which a week from now I'm going to address. I don't expect the detox to go smoothly.
We face a tremendous dilemma looking at chronic pain as a major social medical problem in this country. We have to do something for patients who are suffering. We want to keep our population functional. Opioid drugs are a potential tool. There are people who can use these drugs, go back to work, have good family lives, the whole thing. But we don't know who they are. We haven't a clue. It's just a matter of luck in prescribing. In no other country in the world is this going on.
The process for Brian is going to be long-term. It's not just pain that we're dealing with here. We're dealing with a lot of emotions. One of them is denial. The other one's guilt and anger.
Here's my deal. I am starting to think I've already lost the battle. My self-esteem, which is pretty much a floor mat anyway, is now lower. Because why? Because I came here to get off everything. That's not going to happen. I'm going to walk out of here, at best, an OxyContin freak. I'm aware of it, okay? But
I think he's aware that he's a drug addict and he's on a lot of medications that he shouldn't be on. It happened by accident. You know what? If you're in pain, you take a medication, you feel the medication is not working for you, so you need a stronger dose. You end up on 3 or 4 drugs before you know it. It grows to that point very fast.
I'm not passing the buck, people. I'm culpable. But I'm not fully to blame.
The number of overdoses that we see in this country now from opiate narcotics supersedes all other overdose deaths from illegal narcotics combined. The drug abuser today is not going to be poorly bathed and pull up to my ER in a shopping cart with flies all over the place. They're going to look like you and me. And the lay public does not understand that. They don't understand addiction. Most physicians don't understand addiction.
The influence that the pharmaceutical industry has on healthcare in general is all-inclusive. They have their hands in every aspect of healthcare, and they have their agenda being promoted through every level of healthcare. You're talking about very deep pockets, and you're talking about very highly politically active companies.
Merck is invading the planet. They are everywhere, buying off politicians and pushing their dangerous cancer virus vaccine that's been proven that 18,000 plus people have had adverse reactions, autoimmune diseases, and even death.
A big pharmaceutical company like Merck, like GlaxoSmithKline, like Pfizer, all of whom have been sued for billions of dollars, paid all these billions of dollars of fines, which become the cost of doing business for them, basically. The government could go in there and say, we're cutting you out of our programs. We're cutting you out of our Medicare program. We're cutting you out of Medicaid. But they won't do it because they need the other drugs they have. It's literally another form of addiction that they have. But the consequence of all this is that people are dying.
The last time I checked, we're the most sophisticated healthcare system on the planet. So is this really a public health problem? Or is this a Wall Street growth initiative? And the truth of the matter is it's probably both.
The Justice Department and our law enforcement partners have reached an historic $3 billion resolution with the pharmaceutical manufacturer GlaxoSmithKline.
GSK sales force bribed physicians to prescribe GSK products using every imaginable form of high-priced entertainment.
This action constitutes the largest health care settlement in United States history.
Now, to you and I, $3 billion sounds like an enormous amount of money, and quite frankly, it is. But when you compare that to the profits of the drugs that GlaxoSmithKline were fined for as far as their practices, it's a cost of doing business at that point, but lives are lost in the meantime. I mean, people are dying. Nobody goes to jail.
As a pharmaceutical rep, I had a 6-figure salary before I was 30 years old. I had a company car. I had a stock portfolio. I don't have any of those things now. Now I have a bunch of karma to reverse. Now I have a conscience issue that I have to deal with.
Our beautiful little girl, Candace, died by hanging 4 days after ingesting 100 milligrams of Zoloft.
Found Jacob hanging from the rafter in our attic.
It wasn't the disease that caused my daughter to viciously mutilate herself. It was the drug.
These parents believe the drug companies had evidence there was a risk, but never told them.
They weren't given good information. They had no idea that they were taking a risk that this child would go into their room and hang themselves. They were 7 years old. How many 7-year-olds hang themselves? They don't if they're not on these drugs.
The whole game is rigged. Vioxx, put out by Merck, killed more people than U.S. soldiers that died in the Vietnam War. They are smart enough to understand the implication of their actions. They're smart enough to understand that they can be destroying families, that they can literally be killing people. What kind of a human being does that? It's one thing when people make a mistake. It's another thing when it's volitional.
Well, the economics of a drug company are pretty basic. They're a corporation put together to make a profit for the investors. But if a drug company came up with a product that would cure a problem, every time they treated someone, they would lose part of their market because that person would not have to come back. They would not be able to make a profit. They don't want anyone else to have it, so they would hide it.
One of the things that I was trained to do when I worked with Bristol Myers Squibb was how to psychologically profile a physician in order to know how to approach that physician and best influence their prescribing habits. I very often would know better what a doctor's prescribing habits were than the doctor himself. So the way that I was very effective and the way that most reps today are very effective is simply through bribing physicians through the things that they like.
It was not uncommon for me to be chauffeur-driven around in a limousine. Yeah, flown in on a private jet, name my price, and stay at the top of the Four Seasons. That happened.
What doctors should be aware of, and what I'd like psychiatrists in particular to be aware of, the pharmaceutical industry doesn't have any respect for you. Behind closed doors, they're talking about which drug whore to get to promote their products. And that's what they're calling doctors. They have no respect for their whores, no matter how much they pay them.
If physicians are following guidelines, and that always means prescribing medications, we get more money. So we're talking about a major incentive to just get that prescription written and just convince people to take their pills, no matter how lousy it makes them feel.
Many times patients do come in asking us or telling us what it is they feel that they need. And oftentimes those medications come with a substantial side effect profile or the potential to create addiction. So as a physician, we're no longer really physicians, we're providers. And our patients are really no longer patients. They're subject enrollees in a third-party healthcare system which has a legitimate stake in how we as physicians spend their money. The way we solve their problem in the short run is through the prescription. And while that may be indeed a quick fix and a happy customer, we can't assume that our patients understand the concept of downright addiction. They understand that I give them a pill, they feel good, and their pain goes away, without necessarily understanding the longer-term repercussions. The central tenet of the physician-patient relationship is trust. And if that trust is breached, then we have a real problem on our hands, and we're starting to see that now.
We get brainwashed. We come to believe that things like chiropractor and naturopathy and acupuncture is all quackery. As physicians, we have become basically indentured servants to the medical insurance industry and prostitutes for the pharmaceutical industry without even realizing it or thinking about it. And you cannot see a person for 5 minutes or even 10 minutes or even 15 and just hand out a pill and expect them to get better when, really their depression is caused because they have, a husband who's lost their job and a son who's in crisis and they're working 2 different jobs and not sleeping. That's the underlying issue. It's not a deficit of Prozac.
Children are the largest expansion market available to the pharmaceutical industry, bar none. Children have nowhere to go. They don't know how to put into words, they don't know how to communicate the side effects that they're experiencing. They don't know to relate them to the drugs. Their behavior escalates, or their maladaptive behaviors escalate, and they get more drugs added to them, or they get the dose increased, and then they become delusional and they hallucinate, and all kinds of things happen to them, and they don't even know how to articulate it to their caretakers. It becomes an add-on business technique to sell more drugs and to have lifelong customer bases. All kiddos have health insurance. They're either covered by private insurance or they're covered by Medicaid. So therefore you have a guaranteed reimbursement in terms of insurance, and you have a refill, a guaranteed refill consumer, because the doctors are going to encourage the patients to refill their prescriptions. The parents are going to make them refill their prescriptions. So this is a marketing ploy in trying to get our children on drugs, because they have recognized that not only are they all covered by insurance, but they're lifelong customers if they can get them on drugs at an early age.
Utah's Division of Child and Family Services once tried to force the parents of a boy named Parker Jensen to have him undergo chemotherapy for Ewing sarcoma. That polarizing, highly publicized case began more than 5 years ago and has continued since then in the courts.
A federal court yesterday threw out a lawsuit from the parents of Parker Jensen, but the boy's family says their battle is far from over.
I remember the call. The oral surgeon said, you need to come on in and we need to discuss the results. And he sat us down and he says, your son has cancer. And how devastating that was to hear that your 12-year-old has cancer.
When that MRI came out, there was nothing there. They could not find anything in the MRI, and that was our first kind of, I guess, relief. Like, ooh, it's not as bad as they had said it to be. And they did, a bone scan, and that came out negative, and they did a CT scan, and they did chest x-rays and all these things to try to find some cancer, and every one of those tests came out negative. Yet the doctor still kept saying, well, we still expect you to come, Thursday morning to start chemotherapy.
He said I had invisible cancer and that I had to do chemotherapy anyways.
We saw all these efforts to try to just rush and railroad the Jensens and Parker into chemo. That's not normally the way doctors behave. Almost a year of chemo with bad side effects is not something that responsible parents would agree to without being satisfied this is really the right thing.
My dad printed off a huge list of all the chemotherapy drugs. I remember looking through all of them, seeing what they did, side effects of each drug, how many there were.
On a lot of the drugs that were just going to make you a little bit sick, as we were told, we found out 2% of the people die, just flat out die. Others have major organ damage, tissue damage, brain damage, sterility.
Initially, we thought maybe it's just ego.
The doctor that we weren't supposed to see, but we happened to see, had sponsored a clinical trial for a particular disease, Ewing sarcoma, and it was about ready to be shut down unless they got more 12-year-old white male subjects. The pathologist in the lab was pressured into assigning it Ewing sarcoma. They haven't even taken a blood test yet, and they were forcing chemotherapy, and they reported to the state that he had 2 weeks to live.
If people know that they have that ability, that power, it's just a matter of time before somebody will abuse it.
My parents have always known best, and I can't really ever say that they've ever made a mistake, parenting-wise.
Early on, he looks up at Barbara and I, and he says, Mom, Dad, I'm not sick. And it just solidified in us that we're right. He is not sick, and we got to fight this.
Now the case goes to the state court and the Federal Court of Appeals, where the Jensens hope there is a final decision on whether their right to decide what is best for their son was violated.
I didn't want chemotherapy because looking back on all the tests, they were telling me that they were negative. The doctors were saying that they were negative. Everyone's saying that it was clean. I don't want this, that I want them to just leave us alone.
That's when we were threatened that they would take him away, and we had 3 days to get our case together against the state. We finally found the Brzezinski Institute. We were going to take Parker to have this second opinion. When they found out, they issued warrants for our arrest. Little did we know that the fight would be World War Jensen.
Here the fundamental charge was that you were somehow negligent parents. Negligent because the government knows best.
We would get to a point of disparity where you had the feds looking for you, you had the local police, you had the state police. We're basically in exile because we have these warrants out for us.
One night Darren said, if I go to jail, you are not to bring Parker back. You are not to turn him in. And Darren was charged with kidnapping his own son and because they were neglecting to treat him.
For several weeks, my family was on the lam, I was in jail. I mean, I'm willing to be responsible if I make a wrong decision. That's what parents are for.
Darren and Barbara Jensen charged with kidnapping and medical neglect because they refused chemotherapy for their son.
What really kills me is at the end they said that we didn't win, we just didn't lose either.
Yeah, it was our non-loss.
Whenever you have the best results, whenever you produce remarkable results, then we are most viciously attacked by our peers. That's when you are approaching what is called paradigm shift. And we are approaching paradigm shift, which is going to change completely how we treat not only cancer, but many other illnesses. We will not treat in the name of the disease, like for instance, lung cancer or breast cancer. We treat in the genes which are causing cancer.
On the 20th of October, 2011, I had a brain tumour, a seizure at my office in Melbourne, Australia, and I was rushed to hospital and then put into intensive care later that day. From that day, my journey of this brain tumour started. We went and saw Dr. Charlie Teo in Sydney, and he looked at me in the eye and said, "Whatever you're doing, it's not working." And it was one of the most frightening things I've ever heard in my life. A very close friend of mine said, "You've got to go to Dr. Stanislav Burzynski," and here we are today with the greatest news, which is there is a reduction in the tumour, and we are on the journey of a miracle.
This is the baseline scan, which is dated April 19, before the treatment. This white cloud, this is the tumor growing back, despite that it was removed. Then the upper scan, which is May 29 scan, does not show the new tumors anymore. His tumors completely disappeared. Basically, we are operating with molecular switches which are regulating activity of the genes involved in cancer. And angioplastogens exist in our body. They work as molecular switches. They turn off the activity of the genes which are causing cancer, which means that as long as you have the right amount of angioplastogens in the body, according to our hypothesis, you shouldn't get cancer. And every cancer obviously has a set of genes which is causing the tumor to grow.
My son Dustin was only 2.5 years old at the time. He was diagnosed with a brain tumor the size of a golf ball. The doctors told us Dustin had only a few months to live. In April of 1994, we visited Dr. Stanislav Burzynski in Houston. An MRI 6 weeks after we started Dr. Burzynski's treatment revealed no tumor. To this day, it has not reappeared. If you look at Dustin right now, he is a happy, healthy 4-year-old who has outlived his prognosis.
I didn't look into medicine to make money. I looked at medicine to help people, and that's what I'm doing. You cannot pay me enough to do what I'm doing and go through years of harassment. I could not really profit much from this because obviously angioplastogens, which are clinical tests, are not yet approved for commercial use, and I have to give them free to the patients when we treat patients. There is no financial incentive. There is only financial disaster if you look into this. To approve single medication in the United States costs the average of $1.5 billion. I must be crazy. If I stop doing this, I'll be looking like a coward. I'm not a coward, okay? I would like to do what I feel is right. And I've proved many, many times that I am right. I proved this to the most powerful agency in the United States, which is Food and Drug Administration. They were trying to put me out of circulation, put me to prison for life. They horribly lost.
And why can't patients who have advanced cancer seek the medical treatment of their choice?
Drug companies will not go to market with a drug that cures. That principle holds true for cancer. If there was a cure for cancer, everybody in this huge society that has been developed would be without a job. And so it makes you question the motivation.
I did not want to undergo chemotherapy, which I had a new name for, chemotherapy.
There is no way the chemotherapy can cure malignant brain tumors. It doesn't happen. They did something good for a while. Now is the time that they should gradually fade away because they cannot cure.
I don't want the FDA to take this right from me. I came 18 years ago from communist Romania, and the tyrannous dictator Ceausescu never stopped a doctor from treating anybody. How can we have something like this in the United States?
With the people Brzezinski's seeing, many of them are dying on the waiting list, trying to get access to a treatment, when all other treatment in the United States has failed. And this is something that we've seen over and over again. And the FDA and the government is actually standing in the way and sentencing them to death by saying, hey, we have to approve you to do an experimental treatment, even though all other options have failed. Everything the system does is screaming at us, do not innovate, just stand in line.
I have a report from my family physician which tells how well I am doing. My tumors are leaving my body. Now the FDA is saying to me, no, your doctor is a criminal. He should be put in jail and he needs to be shut down. This is criminal.
Here are these people that would rather you die than to try something that they disapprove of. They would rather you go to your grave. They'd rather see you in a morgue with a toe tag on than to see you get cured. Because if they don't like the cure, if they don't bless the cure, they don't want you to have it. People ask me all the time about Ashlyn, who's my 10-year-old with autism, and said, Lamarck, what happened? I said, well, what the start of it was two very serious reactions to 2 different sets of vaccines. And they said, well, how can that be? I said, well, did you know that there is a separate federal court system for vaccines? Right? And their mouth always drops open as if, well, what do you mean? Vaccines are safe. We don't have a separate court system in the United States of America for vaccines. I said, we absolutely do. When's the last time that you had informed consent? When you were given vaccines, were you given the list of ingredients? Do you read your food labels? Nowadays, people are saying, yeah, I read my food labels. I want to know what's going on in my body. Have you read the ingredients? Well, no, I haven't. Have you read the possible reactions? Because when you read what my daughter experienced is on the label. But my pediatrician believed that it was so safe that it was impossible to have a reaction. That's terrifying to me.
Ashlyn was born perfectly healthy. She was perfect. And then we started to take her in for her vaccines on schedule 2, 4, 6 months. After every set of vaccines, she had a reaction. At 4 months, she had a high-pitched scream that was just persistent and didn't stop. She continued to develop normally up until about 2 years of age. And at 2 years of age, language stopped. And that's when probably the regression into autism started.
Daddy did it? Wow, that's a good using your words there, sister.
Daddy did.
Bad daddy.
Bad daddy. Bad daddy.
Bad daddy. If we would have been given the vaccine label, it describes a textbook vaccine reaction. Once we read that label, it was just amazing to see that this was all there in black and white and should have easily been caught. From that point on, I think, is really when we got our real schooling in American medicine and what they don't tell you.
In 1986, the vaccine companies were having great financial problems and many going broke because of the suits for injury and or death of children receiving vaccines. So Congress passed a law that prohibits American citizens from suing vaccine companies for any reason, including death. They established a separate court system to hear the cases. That court receives 70 cents of every vaccine that's been administered since 1970. Literally billions of dollars have been spent in paying off the families of these injured children. The requirement is that they must not tell that they were given any money or how much money they received.
It's hard to believe sometimes she's so sick.
This is a travesty. There is no industry in America, other than the vaccine companies, that is immune from suits. We haven't given that guarantee to any other form of industry, and it certainly should not be given to an industry that the health and welfare of our children is so dependent upon.
Evan, what did you do at Aunt Kristen's house? Did you play with blocks? No talking?
Evan was diagnosed with autism. They said I would just have to come to grips with the fact that he was going to go to school and get a job or live someplace where he needed help. Diet doesn't matter, and, you know, vaccines have no play in this.
Vaccinations were a huge advent in the history of healthcare. Saved millions of lives. But we've gotten out of control with the vaccinations. I think when I was a kid, I had to have 6 vaccinations before I entered school. Now these kids are getting upwards of 26 vaccinations. That's just plain insanity in my world. You're putting all that stuff into a child's body. What about kids who have hypersensitivity to the mercury that's put in vaccines to preserve them?
Whoa!
There's going to be a certain number of kids that are going to have these dramatic reactions. A lot of neurological conditions are caused because of the reactions they have to those.
Where are we?
Dr. Tony.
Dr. Tony?
I go inside.
Yeah?
We made an adjustment, and you could see that kid's power come on. It was like his brain turned on for the first time.
Dr. Tony, yay!
Yeah.
I do truck.
What's that?
A truck.
A truck?
It was such little adjustments to his nervous system to make such huge gains.
It was the adjustment that got the stress off of his system, that turned his brain back on, that allowed him to go back into that growth and development stage that a kid innately should be in.
Cat in the hat.
Cat in the hat.
His 3rd birthday, he had maybe 5 words.
5 words, yeah.
A month later, it was pages of words.
Where are we going? What are we doing?
To the bus.
We're going to the bus. Where does the bus take you?
Take the bus. Oh, take the school.
Oh, the bus takes you to school.
Seeing the vacant look in Evan's eye and knowing that something wasn't right and seeing that go away is incredible.
Hi. How are you? Good.
These individual cases cannot be considered to be scientific proof. You can't generalize from them, and yet they open up in our minds an enlarged sense of what is possible. What if chiropractic helps 10%? A randomized controlled trial says there's no benefit, but for that individual patient, there's a benefit.
How do you spell Evan?
E.
What?
B.
Yeah.
A.
Huh?
N.
So how do we deal with that? First, we never claim genuine evidence that chiropractic has been scientifically proven to help the majority of cases of whatever the visceral condition is. Second, it is legitimate, assuming it is spoken honestly, to say to a patient or potential patient, there are some individuals with this condition who appear to have been helped by chiropractic care. It only takes one white crow to prove that not all crows are black.
It's a pretty simple equation. Chiropractic first, medicine second, surgery third. Always the least invasive, least harmful method first, and then you work your way up. You don't start with the surgical situation. You don't start with the side effects of medication. You start with the possibility of the most conservative effect first.
Mr. Oliver here was born early. He arrived about 5 weeks early, and the reason he did, he had a little tiny hole in his heart, and it left blood kind of still going back through to his lungs and gave him a condition called persistent pulmonary hypertension, or PPHN. So basically, he couldn't get enough blood through his lungs to get oxygen to the rest of his body.
I'll never forget what they said to us the first thing when we checked in was, your son is very sick. And to hear somebody tell you those words when you see him with all the tubes and everything, it was pretty hard.
This 6 weeks journey, we saw the absolute crazy incredibleness of modern medicine and how they can save a life. We got the most amazing, life-saving emergency care there was, and we trusted them. The doctors were incredible. And they had 2 people on him 24/7, making sure this machine was perfect and he was good. But that time, we had that burst depression show up, where his brain had that spikes of seizure activity and then went dormant. They were locked and loaded. They said, he's going to have seizures. He's going to have delays.
And they told us that he had a 50-50 chance of having cerebral palsy, and at best that he was just going to be severely developmentally delayed.
So at that time, with the seizures and the activity there, they wanted us to keep him on phenobarbital. Well, it was just the craziest situation in the world for me, because I am a pediatric chiropractor. My whole life's focused in neurology and taking care of these kids with seizures and delays, and here I was being told that he was going to be certainly one of them. Just like we had faith in them to save his life, we had 100% faith in chiropractic and what I could do to get his brain put back together, to let his nervous system heal. There's studies that show that phenobarbital just destroys a child's IQ. It destroys their livelihood. We made the choice not to do that.
And it was really hard because the same people that saved his life, and we were so, so grateful for them. And, you know, I mean, they gave us our son. It was really hard to then question what they were saying.
We knew what those drugs did to people, and we knew that they didn't allow for this. We knew that chiropractic could give him life back. Throughout that course of time, as Oliver was in the hospital, they watched me like a hawk. They thought like I was going to adjust him and his head was going to spin around, and like it was some crazy, wild, unscientific-based thing I was doing. We literally had to almost be secretive about when I would work on my own dang son, yet when I would ask them, what are you going to do for him? Well, we need to keep him on phenobarbital.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Oliver's bill at the hospital for all that they did was over $1 million. If we continue with what they do, phenobarbital and the 3-4 other medications that they wanted to keep him on, Oliver would have become a lifelong customer of that business. We would have had to try this drug and then this drug and then this drug. I see it every day in here. Those are the patients I take care of. They go through absolute misery with that. Their job is done. Thank you. God bless you. Most amazing thing I've ever seen, saving my son's life. Now give him to me and give him to my world, and we're going to give him life. We're going to get him back.
By sticking with what we believed in, we have our son.
We're getting ready for the start of the 40th annual Iditarod Sled Dog Race. Thanks for being with us.
Chiropractors and doctors like them, they're putting their families in jeopardy. They're putting their legacies in jeopardy. They're putting their livelihoods in jeopardy to treat a person. I will go to somebody like Jason West the rest of my life, but I literally had to walk through an immense amount of fear to get there. You have to walk down a path possibly you've never walked down. You have to walk into the face of adversity. I've known Lorelei for a long time. We've, got to know each other hanging out on the Iditarod Trail.
You're tuned into coverage for the 2012 Iditarod ceremonial start here on 4th Avenue. I'm Lorelei Canine.
When I was probably 10 years old, my mom, she was diagnosed with lupus and was being treated for lupus, and she also had rheumatoid arthritis. She took so many different medications, and eventually as she got older, they became stronger and stronger. That added onto the depression, which she was taking medication for also, and eventually took her own life in 2004. Having known that my mom had lupus and that my sister had rheumatoid arthritis, my aunt has rheumatoid arthritis, I was approaching 30 and I kind of was waiting to experience symptoms like RA or like lupus, and I was hoping that it wouldn't hit me, but it eventually did. I didn't know where to go. Thanks to a very good friend of mine, I heard of the West Clinic.
She took what I gave her, the information, and she went to Pocatello
They found Lyme living in her. She has since gotten her sister there, Karen. They have found Lyme in her. And so it begs the question, did her mom die of Lyme disease?
It's tough to know that there's a place in the world that could have helped my mom. That she could be here today, healthy and with hope. When someone's sick and they can't find help, and there's no hope for them getting better, it's the most helpless feeling.
It is a shame when a person lives in a community and can't go get treated, whether it's properly or the way they want to be treated. Lorelei has to get on an airplane, a small commuter plane, fly to Anchorage, fly to Seattle, fly to Salt Lake, and either drive from Salt Lake or get to Pocatello by air. I mean, it's a massive journey.
It's a big investment, but to me, to get the right treatment, it's so worth it.
People come in here and tell me how much courage it takes to be an alternative medicine patient because it's going against the societal grain.
I think that your brain really does go through some sort of transformation when you have a chronic illness or you have pain. No one ever mentioned Lyme disease, ever. Nobody could really tell me that there was anything wrong with me. My blood work was fine. You know, it was weird.
I trusted the doctors when they said, you need your appendix out, you need your gallbladder out. Why would they do the surgery if I don't need it?
3 days after the surgery, I had a debilitating head pound, the kind you were in fetal position and couldn't lift your head off the pillow, and continued like that for 3 years.
3 years?
It was 3 years that I didn't have one pain-free minute until I found you.
It's not exactly what their family recommends, or it's not the norm.
My daughter, she started getting headaches and stomach aches. They told me it was mono. In my gut, I knew something was wrong.
When you have a daughter who can't get out of bed and you don't know why, that's frightening.
Very often when patients come in, they've had every test. You've had certainly MRIs and x-rays, and they sort of miss the elephant in the room.
Every time we asked the doctor, what is the root of the problem, they said, we will never understand the root of the problem. What we can do is deal with the symptoms.
It's really frustrating that medical doctors won't be more open to natural medicine when I was sick for 14 years and on antibiotics about 10 of those years.
We're seeing patients that truly have had the best healthcare money can buy. They've been to every specialist, and they're sort of missing this important piece.
I had lost all faith in doctors, and I came here, and he restored my faith and hope again.
When she was starting to get well, I said, she's got her life back. And then I said, wait, she never had a life, and now she has a life.
Alternative treatment has not been allowed to flourish in the medical community. It's basically been stifled, and the doctors have to go out on a limb.
Most of the time in medicine, what they're saying is let's just block the symptoms. I'd want to know what the symptoms are so that it helps me understand what's going on in the patient. I don't want to block them, I want to resolve them.
This is my feeding tube. I've been on it for 3 months and 1 week. They put the feeding tube in because I was just starving to death. I couldn't even suck on a mint without the pain and it going through me. And so I didn't chew gum, I didn't drink water, nothing. Western medicine, couldn't find anything. I went to numerous doctors, and my husband said, what do we do now? And she looked at him and she goes, I don't know. Go home. She was sending me home to die. I have 4 kids, and they just lost me. My family watched me just slowly die.
We had a nice long cry, and we got past that. We had to sit down and say, what's going to happen when you're gone? What life is going to be like when she isn't here, and what is going to be okay in her mind of how I raise our children. And
they did the blood work here, and there was so many parasites. They put me right in. We started the infusions. One of the biggest things that I got when I came was hope. We'll fix this. We will fix this. You will be okay. We walked away
knowing that I was going to make it. You know, my husband walked away going, I'm not going to bury my wife. We immediately started to see those treatments working. I have color, I have energy, I'm functioning. It's a slow process. We figured that I've had Lyme since I was little, but I get those moments, you know, the first time I was able to walk back outside in the sunshine by myself, alone. The simple things that we take for granted every single day. I can remember starting to smile again. I didn't think that you could lose smiling. You do. You lose everything. Just over 3 weeks ago, we were able to pull the feeding tube. I try and introduce like a new food every couple days. I am able to be up and around with the kids. I'm a mom that likes to be involved and be the room mother and to do all of that stuff, to get to be a part of it, and I haven't been able to do any of it. I mean, nothing.
In the medical field, the individual doctors are often wonderful. They care for their patients. There is no question in my mind that they want to do what's best for their patient. But if they are only educated in one direction, and that is pharmacology or surgery, they simply are not going to look in other directions.
When it's appropriate, drugs are good. The bottom line is it's not applied properly. And that's my gripe. It isn't that I'm anti-drug, it's that I'm anti the way drugs are prescribed in such an indiscriminate fashion.
We live in a culture where we want results right now. You know, whether that's to pop something in the microwave and have dinner in 10 minutes, or, you know, go have a surgery, or pop 3 pills because you have the euphoria of feeling good for a moment, but all that's doing is masking the problem. You know, you don't need to go all the way to Iraq or Afghanistan to find combat. Combat is right here. And if healthcare is about just making money, then we have lost focus of the mission.
To me, the ultimate 2 questions are, why are we sick? And what do we need to do to get and stay well? The only way that we can be healthy is to be and seek out and find and stay in, as much as possible, a healthy environment. Is it possible that we're ever going to express our full genetic potential for well-being in the industrial environment we've now created? No. Is it possible that we could reduce chronic illness, live better, longer lives to a degree which is almost unimaginable? Unequivocally, yes.
So where do we start?
Going for a 30-minute walk 5 days a week can reduce heart disease and diabetes and obesity by 90%. Eating some more raw fruits and vegetables, even if you keep eating the other junk. Taking some simple things like omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin D, which are pennies a day, which we know have an astronomical benefit. If you can imagine that medicine's the fire department and your house catches fire, it's wonderful. They can come and save your life. What tools do they have? They have axes and fire hoses, drugs and surgery. But it would make no sense to call them back the next day to spray your house down again. And it would make no sense to have your house regularly sprayed down so that you didn't get a fire, because the things that are useful in an emergency are not the same things that provide us with our genetic requirements for nutrition, for exercise, etc. The focus has gone from how we live in the environment that we've created for ourselves to looking inside through a microscope to try and find out this weakness that's causing this illness. And so our well-being is totally dependent upon the quality of the ecosystem that we live in. It's not about being an environmentalist, it's about being a humanist. As the population increases and the consumption rate increases, there has to be a point when we have to say to ourselves, is this sustainable? There's this long delay that's occurred between the consequences of our actions destroying the environment we live on and the consequence which is going to destroy us, because the laws of this earth or this universe are laws that we cannot live outside of.
I think that if all physicians thought this way, opened their minds up to alternatives, opened up the communication streams of who knows what where. In other words, we're conversing with Eastern medicine, for example. We're looking more at holistic approaches. We're looking at suitable alternatives, both mechanically with regards to rehabilitation therapy and pharmaceutically with regards to things other than prescription-based drugs. We would find more alternatives, bona fide alternatives that work to be able to offer our patients in terms of getting them better. I absolutely believe that's the case. You're starting to see it happen.
There are other complementary alternative medical modalities, what they call CAM modalities, that have yet to really be clearly elucidated, but in my mind make a lot of biologic sense. All of my patients post-operatively are getting ginger oil as well as peppermint oil in their oxygen mask. A lot of the chemical constituents of plants from all around the world have dramatic therapeutic capacity to go into the cell, go into the brain, go into the joint, and provide great anti-inflammatory care.
We're seeing a new generation of medical students and doctors rising up saying, how can we be more collaborative with alternative health, holistic health, osteopathic medicine, other things that we don't really know about and that we don't fully understand? How can we have a dialogue? What is in the best interest of this patient? And I think when we start to do that, we're going to learn a lot.
If you were to ask me about 30 years ago when I was a medical student at the University of Pennsylvania, if I were going to be seeing a chiropractor as the main healthcare provider in my life, I probably would have said you were nuts. Well, after 8 years of residency, I found out what about every other surgeon finds out, which is that doing surgery is very hard on your spine. I can remember coming home at night in so much pain. And I remember saying to my wife, I said, I don't think I'm going to make this. I think I'm going to have to switch careers. For the past 20 years, you really have become the main healthcare provider for what has basically kept me in practice.
It's been very interesting, this transformation within this profession and really within the allopathic profession, who just 15 to 20 years ago was a whole different scenario in terms of their perception of chiropractic, their understanding of chiropractic, and their acceptance.
The whole mindset of healthcare is starting to get refocused in a very patient-centered, evidence-based, directed healthcare in which the patient has choices to make. And it's the choices that they didn't have before that, in my mind, is going to change the landscape of the way healthcare is delivered.
The baby boomers pushing for all these alternative methods of care. They wanted other answers. They didn't want to just go to a physician and have them prescribe medication and say, take this and it's going to get better. They wanted to know what they could do, how they could prevent further episodes.
The ability to think and really problem solve in a new way, it really helps to invigorate and bring joy back into the practice.
It should be a joint process of physicians from different disciplines working together to create a paradigm of what we're capable of producing in this country.
Many of us are moving into this realm where it's a team. We approach problems from multiple angles. Just like any disease is multifaceted, it's just plain good care.
Irresponsibility has taken its toll on society today, and that has to change. The time is now for other methods in healthcare. Number one is personal responsibility.
Prevention is starting a lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle from when you're a teenager. How do we maintain wellness? How do we keep people healthy?
We are entering into a very interesting era of patient attitude, patient empowerment, and that's why I'm so optimistic about tomorrow. If we can change the system so that the patient is empowered better and cared for better, that's what it's all about. You have to know where you came from before you know where you're going. One of the problems in chiropractic, Dave, the fact that this has been a singular, isolated profession, kept from telling its story. We're saying that we have a right to exist as a viable healthcare delivery system that has been in existence for 85 years and has proven its worth on millions and millions of people. Why try to destroy us? Why try to boycott us? The bottom line in this whole deal is, do the consumers of this country have a freedom to choose the healthcare provider of their choice?
You know, 6 months ago when I was dropped off at the airport, I was asked, pleaded, begged to come back. I'm not back, but I'm getting there. All kinds of pain, all kinds of misdiagnoses, all kinds of drugs later, complete with 2 detoxes, 2 stints in detox, 1 lockdown, very scary, 1 halfway house, which I got all the way out of after 1 night. It's all by way of saying I am on my way back. I'm getting there, and I will complete that trip. in the really, really near future.
Hi, my name is Evan.
Yeah, your name's Evan, and how old are you going to be, Evan?
4.
When are you going to be 4?
On July 17.
Oh, yay! What do you have on your face?
I have dimples.
You have dimples?
I have dimples. I know how to use them.
Where are we? We're in California?
We're in California.
Anaheim.
We're going rafting. We're going to get really wet. We're going to talk to you after. Yeah, we're going to get wet.
Recording, yep.
Thank you.
Sweet. We made it to the Pyrenees, south of France. About to start the Camino de Santiago and heading towards Spain. I'm healthy, I'm happy, life's good.